Well, hello there. Let's talk about goal setting today. Today's lesson 40 SMART goals. I did not invent this acronym, but I want to apply the acronym of SMART to goal setting and stock because it's such a great system. It's such a simple idea I want to kind of get into today. So that being said, lesson 40 SMART goals. Let's check it out. So I want to do two things today. One is start at the macro level and then go into the micro level. Through this course, you've gotten really used to me talking about going from macro to micro, whether it's macro goals of a index to a sector to an industry to that stock, and having that whole entire layer of like, hey, the gravitational forces look good, look equal, neutral, look bad. And I want to kind of go off today of some SMART goals for your macro goals to your micro goals. So we're going to take, 10, 11 small topics today, go through them, lead us into tomorrow's lesson or the next lesson that's going to be your short-term versus long-term goals, which coexist and goes with this lesson perfectly because your macro goals and your long-term goals should match your micro goals and your short-term goals. Have you ever kind of felt confused where you're kind of like, this is a great stock, but how does it fit in my overall goal setting? How does the stock fit in my overall system? It's good. But does it match up with what I want to risk, what I want to make, how quickly, how slowly? We've brushed on these things, we've touched on these things, and today, let's bring it back together, wrap a pretty bow on this, let's get that building's fourth wall on today and tomorrow, and then we can go ahead and move on to consistency and some nice last touches of this class. So with that being said, macro goals, micro goals, and SMART goals. Let's get into it. So what are SMART goals? If you can Google it, you certainly can. I'm gonna give you a brief overview now. It's a good way of keeping your goals not only dead set on a specific goal, but it's something that's obtainable and easy to get. The reason is if you go, I want to be rich one day. Cool. What's that mean? So you have no idea what that even means. What's rich to you? When's old? All these kinds of things. So the first part of SMART goals is ask, which means specific. So when it comes to specific goals, you have to put a value on something. You have to put an exact date on something. It has to be specific enough to be like, instead of being, I want to be rich when I'm older, maybe it's, I want to have $500,000 investments by age 65. You have to put numbers and be specific enough to your goals to where they're obtainable and they can be truth or false, right? I am going to be blank by blank, or I'm going to have blank by this certain time, this much off this trade. It has to be yes or no. Like, I will make $10 off this trade. Yes or no. It must be specific. Next part of SMART goals is measurable. This goes hand in hand, right? If you can't measure the next steps you're going to take, if you can't measure how much money you're going to make or percent you're going to make off a trade, or your goals be measurable based on something else, it means nothing. So make sure all the goals that we set, long-term and short-term, are going to be measurable by success, by failure, by amount, by percent. They must be measurable. Third is going to be obtainable. If you have no money and your job makes minimum wage, which is probably why you're here, I'm glad I can help, you're not going to be a millionaire next year, most likely. And again, it's probably not obtainable. This is important for twofold. One, if you don't have attainable goals, you're going to feel like doo-doo when you don't make them, right? If your goals are so obtainable and ridiculous, you never reach them, you're just going to make yourself upset. Secondly, there's no way of properly staggering and having step-by-step success into your goals if they're not obtainable. Instead of saying, I want to be a millionaire by next year, which seems unobtainable and a bit ridiculous. If you said, I want to have a positive net worth next year, that's obtainable. You can do that. And then I want to have 5 figures in the bank by next year. Then I want to make my first investment in 3 years. And you set attainable goals. The momentum builds, the snowball down that hill builds, and it makes much more sense than just saying I want to be blank and be unobtainable. Every goal must be obtainable. It must make some form of sense. And again, that may be obvious, but again, just to make sure it's super clear, must be doable. Fourth is relevant. If you're going to make a goal that doesn't match your macro goals, why are you doing it? Right? Make sure every single goal is relevant. If you want to build passive income, and again, all your goals lead to day trading, it doesn't make sense. It's not relevant. Make sure all the goals that you set deal with the same exact system, with the same exact structure, with the same topic, right? If you want to be rich, setting diet goals doesn't make any sense. Again, this may seem obvious, but while you're setting your macro trading goals, all must be relevant and all must scaffold up and it all must make some sense. Thinking you're going to not be relevant here is illogical. I think you're going to be. Just make sure, though, you're being relevant with your goals, macro down to micro. And lastly is time-based. Ain't nothing worse than somebody who sets a bunch of goals and has no time-based decisions on it. If you say I want to be rich and have no time on it, you're going to push it off to tomorrow. I push this course days off because it's not time-based. I have goals in my life that have been postponed. Everyone does because they're not time-based. You have to have maturity. You have to be able to set time-based goals. I will do all the dishes by bedtime. I fail that all the time, but at least I try, right? So there's a bunch of things that I often fail, and that's okay. But they have to be time-based for you to have some form of maturity, consistency, and just absolute due date on them so you can at least be somewhat successful. So from now on, the goals that you set for investing are going to be specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time-based. If you do that macro to micro, you'll see how much easier trading becomes, because you do see a great play and a second great play, and one matches specific, measurable, obtainable, relevant, and time-based. It matches those 5 things, and the other one doesn't. You know where to go next, right? So all your trades have to be smart goals. All of them have to line up well, be macro to micro, as always. With that being said, SMART, let's talk about the SMART goals for your macro goals. I'm not going to answer them for you, but I want to pose some questions, pose where I would start, so you can start building this macro level goals and then go micro. So let's start with macro and being specific. Let's talk about it. When it comes to being specific on your macro goals, let's talk about one thing in particular. What are your overall goals in the market? I think there's 4 you can aim for, and you should be at least one of these dead set, and the other 3 you can kind of do on the side. But I want to talk about the 4 things that you could be specifically in the market quickly. Tomorrow's lesson or the next lesson is much more in depth on this. First being active. While you're in the market, what kind of goals do you want to have? The first is being active. Do you want to be hands-on, doing your own trading, making your own goals, having your own plan, being the one that's executing, buying, selling, researching, developing? You're the one with the mental analysis. You're the one with the technical analysis, the fundamental analysis, the trading plans. It's on you. Is that what you want to be at the macro level of being an active trader, an active investor? That's the first specific thing you can be. The second is a passive investor. Hands are on. You're buying the investment. You're taking the dividends. You're getting the earnings checks, whatever it is. You're selling the cover calls. But are you buying and selling every single day? Are you being once a month? What are you doing? Are you reinvesting stuff? Are you being more passive and generating passive income? That's the second specific thing most folks can be in the macro market level of your overall trading plan and structure. The third is speculation. You have money to spare, you have money to blow, and you have a bunch of small cap companies with massive upside. Do you roll the dice on them, right? It could be crypto, it could be NFTs, it could be stocks, it could be whatever it is. You are willing to risk 100% to make 10,000% possibly. This is faster money, it's more risk, but again, are you a speculative kind of buyer or are you not? That's the third thing you can be. And the fourth is retirement bound, or I guess retirement focused, right? If you're 55 years old and you're starting this journey with no 401k or no retirement plan, it's gonna be a bit tight, and I apologize for that. I hope I can help you. But if you are my age at 30, I don't think I'm 12, it's okay though. But if you're a little bit younger, can you forego some activeness? Can you forego some risk to just buy the S&P and chill, right? What level of risk do you want to take on? Do you really need money now? Because there's a lot of folks who want to invest for retirement that don't really need the money now. You have a fine paying job, you can throw $1,000 a month at the S&P, take nothing out, and then when you're 60, 59.5 or 65, you got a good chunk of change, right? What kind of investor you want to be? Those are the 4 things I think specifically you should aim to do. And tomorrow / next lesson, we'll discuss that much more in depth. But for now, take a second and think. Am I going to be active? Am I going to be passive? Am I going to be speculative? Or am I going to be retirement focused? Those are 4 spots I would start. Once you answer that question, that macro question, then the umbrella opens all the little additions, and you can branch off like an RPG game, like Skyrim, all the different selections and stuff. You can then go, if I want to be active, well, I don't care about Coca-Cola, right? Because they have a great dividend, but it doesn't matter to me. You want to be passive, you're like, we're not going to buy